Etymology is the study of the origin of words and the meaning they have associated to it. In this video, we're going to find out about the origin of each European capital name. It's important to first note two things. One, in a lot of cases, we just don't know what the origin or original meaning is, and we just have various options, some more likely than others. Two, within those options, there are many times mythological stories with little to no historical truth to them. Two of the examples I used on the thumbnail reflect that, with Lisbon's origin having to do with Ulysses or Odysseus, and Rome having to do with Romulus, figures that are mostly mythological and are likely to have never existed, or even if they did, we can't be sure if the names come from them. Also keep in mind, I'm going to try to summarize these as much as possible so they won't be an in-depth analysis, just a brief look at the most likely option or options for each capital's name, origin, and meaning. Starting with the ones on the thumbnail. Lisbon is the capital of Portugal. Its name may have been derived from the Celtic Olisipu or a similar name, which other peoples like the ancient Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans adapted accordingly. It might have come from the local Tagus River, which in pre-Roman times is said to have been called Liso or Lucio. Mythology and popular legend mentions the possibility of the city having been named Olisipo because it would have been founded by the mythical hero Ulysses or Odysseus. Another claim is that the name of Lisbon could be traced back to Phoenician times, referring to a supposedly Phoenician term, Alis Ubu, meaning safe harbor. But this has little historical record. The most likely origin seems to be the reference to the river and its name at the time. Berlin is Germany's capital. The name has its roots in the language of West Slavic inhabitants of the area and may be related to the old Polabian term Berl, which means swamp. Since the Ber at the beginning sounds like the German word for bear, Bar, a bear appears in the coat of arms of the city. Others state that the city takes its name from a West Slavic word meaning river rake, a scaffold of beams built over a river to prevent logs from jamming. The river in question would be the Spree, which crosses Berlin. So similarly to Lisbon, it could be named in reference to its local river. In Italy, Rome. The mythological origin would be of the legendary founder and first ruler, Romulus. It is said that Romulus and his twin brother Remus were parented by a wolf after being abandoned, then deciding to build a city. The brothers argued and Romulus killed Remus, then naming the city of Rome after himself. But this is just a legend, and there's no reason to believe it's any truer than Lisbon being named after Ulysses. The actual origin of Rome, or Roma rather, is uncertain, but there are a few options. It could come from Rumon or Rumen, an archaic name for the Tiber River, related to the Greek verb Geo, which means to flow, from the Etruscan word huma, whose root is hum, tit, perhaps in reference to the legend of the wolf, or from the Greek word home, which means strength. I'm gonna mispronounce all the foreign words, by the way. And then going alphabetically. Amsterdam is the constitutional capital of the Netherlands. Its name is also because of the river, founded at the Amstel River. It was dammed to control flooding, and the city's name derives from the Amstel Dam. Andorra La Vella is the capital of the Principality of Andorra, adding the La Vella, which means Andorra the town, to distinguish it from the Principality as a whole. Although in Catalan, the word vella is derived from the Latin word vetula, which means old, the vella here, villa in Catalan, is derived from the Latin word villa and means town. Andorra itself has a number of possibilities for its name origin. You can check out my European country names video to find out which those are. Before we keep going to the rest of the capitals, a quick message from the sponsor of today's video, Blinkist. If you watch the channel, you know Blinkist is a long-term friend and supporter. I'm really happy to have a sponsor whose product I actually use and love. So in case you don't know yet, what is Blinkist? Blinkist is an app that takes thousands of non-fiction books and condenses them into very short, around 15 minutes, listening or reading sessions, usually divided into even smaller portions. This way, Blinkist eliminates one of the biggest obstacles most people have when it comes to reading, having the time and attention span to sit down for a couple of hours a day. They summarize the key points of each book and present them to you for quick consumption, so that your lack of time doesn't stop you from learning. There are a ton of different categories. I am, unsurprisingly, a fan of the history one. Right now, I'm listening to one called The Sleepwalkers, which talks about the outbreak of World War I. As usual, the first 100 people to go to Blinkist.com/general knowledge will get a free 1-week trial, as well as 25% discount if they want to try out the full membership. And now, back to the video. Ankara is the capital of Turkey. In the medieval period, the city was known as Ankara, meaning anchor, and the origin seems to be the Celtic word of Ansira, which also meant anchor. Following its annexation by the Seljuk Turks in 1073, the city became known in many European languages as Angora. It was also known in Ottoman Turkish as Enguru. Athens in Greece is next. In antiquity, it was debated whether Athens took its name from the goddess Athena or if Athena took her name from the city. Mythologically, the city took the name from the goddess, but people now agree that the goddess likely takes her name from the city because the ending "ene" is common in names of locations but rare for personal names. In ancient Greek, the name of the city was Aten. The root of the word is probably not of Greek origin and is possibly a remnant of the pre-Greek settlement in the area. Then Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. The contemporary name of Belgrade derives from the Slavic words bel, meaning white, and grad, city or castle. It was therefore named after the white walls of the fortress that enclosed the city. Bern is Switzerland's capital. The origin and meaning of Bern is uncertain. Legend has it that Berchtold V, the Duke of Zähringen, founder of the city of Bern, vowed to name the city after the first animal he met on a hunt. He first met a bear, and so the city was named after it. It also has been considered likely that the city could be named after the Italian city of Verona, which at the time was known as Bern in Middle High German. Bratislava in Slovakia only received its contemporary name in 1919. Until then, it was mostly known in English by its German name, Pressburg. When it comes to Bratislava itself, it is assumed to be derived, by mistake, although I don't know how that works, from the name of the Czech ruler Bretislav I. In Belgium, Brussels. The most common theory of the origin of the name Brussels is that it derives from the Old Dutch broeksel, meaning marsh, broek, and home, cell, so essentially being something like home in the marsh. Bucharest is Romania's capital city. In Romanian, it is called Bucuresti and has an uncertain origin. Some connect the founding of Bucharest with the name of Bucur, a legendary figure. It could be related to the Romanian word bucuri, which means joy or happiness, and it is believed to be of Dacian origin, so the city Bucharest would kind of mean city of joy. Other etymologies are given by early scholars, including the one of an Ottoman traveler who said that Bucharest was named after Abu Karis of a local tribe, and a 19th century book assumed its name to be derived from Bukovi, a forest of beech trees. Budapest, the capital of Hungary, has a similar name, but not necessarily a similar origin. It comes from the merging of three separate medieval towns, Buda, Obuda, and Pest, in 1873. The origin of each of these towns' names, specifically Buda and Pest, are uncertain. Buda might come from the name of a local castle, in turn named after its first ruler, who some say was Bleda, brother of the Hunnic ruler Attila. It could also derive from the local term for twig. There are several theories about Pest. One states that the name derives from a local fortress in Roman times called by Pesion. Another states that Pest originates from the Slavic word for cave. Chisinau is Moldova's capital. A theory suggests that the name may come from the old Romanian word Chisla, meaning spring or source of water, and Noa, meaning new, because it was built around a small spring. The other version states that the name was formed the same way as the name of the location of Chisinau in western Romania near the border with Hungary. This Romanian name comes from the Hungarian Chisinau, Chis meaning small, and Yeno, one of the 7 Hungarian tribes who lived in the area. Copenhagen in Denmark is next. The etymology of Copenhagen is pretty simple. In Danish, it roughly translates to merchant's harbor. Copenhagen, haven being harbor in Danish, it reflects its origin as a harbor and a place of commerce. All the way in Ireland is the capital of Dublin. The name Dublin derives from the Irish word Dublin, formed from dub, meaning dark, and lind, meaning pool, referring to a dark tidal pool in the area. As far back as 841, it is said there was a Viking settlement there called Diflin, then Helsinki in Finland. According to one theory, at the time of Swedish colonization of coastal Finland, colonists arrived at the Vanta River and called it Helsinga after the Helsing River, which gave rise to the name of Helsing village, perhaps in reference to the Swedish word Helsing, an archaic form of the word hals, referring to the narrowest part of a river, the rapids. And in fact, when a town was founded in the Forsby village in 1548, it was named Helsing Fors, meaning Helsing rapids. Colloquially known as just Helsinki, it would have eventually evolved into the modern form, being translated into Helsinki. Down in Ukraine is Kiev. Kiev is likely a remnant of the composite name Kie's Castle and is associated with Key, the legendary founder of the city, a name that dates back hundreds, if not over 1,000 years, to the early stages of Russia and Eastern Europe with the Principality of Kiev. Ljubljana is Slovenia's capital, also with an unclear origin. In the Middle Ages, both the river and the town were also known by the German name Laibach and in Italian Ljubljana, so I think we can assume the origin is closer to the Italian one. It is possible the word Ljubljana evolved from the Roman word alluviana, meaning a flooding river. In fact, apparently Laibach in German is also how they called the local marshland. But the main theory states that the name Ljubljana derives from the original name of the Ljubljanica River, which flows through the city, itself derived from the Old Slavic male name Ljubovit, meaning the one of a lovely appearance, either way coming from the local river. When it comes to the UK, the capital is London. London is an ancient name called Londinium all the way back in Roman times. People today seem to agree the name comes from a local Celtic language. They called the area or settlement Londonion, then adapted into Latin as Londinium and evolving into English as London. The meaning of the original Celtic name would have to do with the term lend, meaning to sink, therefore suggesting that the name originally meant place that floods. But I think it also makes sense to quickly mention the capitals of other member countries of the UK. Scotland's Edinburgh derives from Aden, the name for this region in the Cumbric language. The name's meaning is unknown, but there was a local castle called Din Aden, so perhaps it simply comes from the castle's name. Cardiff in Wales derives from the medieval Welsh Caerdydd. The first part of the name is the common Welsh noun Caer, meaning fort, and the second is the name of the river Taff, while Belfast in Northern Ireland derives from the Irish Beal First. The word Beal means river mouth, while First refers to a sandbar across a river's mouth. Again, I'm sorry for probably mispronouncing all of these. Moving south is Luxembourg City, supposedly named after a Roman fort called Lucilinburg, commonly translated as Little Castle. Some people link the origin of the word with Letze, meaning fortification, which may have referred to the remains of that ancient Roman watchtower. Around the fort of Luxembourg, a town gradually developed, and then, becoming a duchy, versions of that name were used for it, then evolving into the modern Luxembourg. The city is simply to distinguish it from the name of the country as a whole. Going even further south is Madrid. There are three main theories about the origin of Madrid. None of them are certain or confirmed. The first is that it would be of Celtic origin, Magetoritum, with the root ritu, meaning ford. The other is from the Arabic magra, meaning water stream, or mairit, meaning spring or fountain as well. A Mozarabic variant of the Latin word matrix, matricis, also meaning water stream, is another option for the origin of Madrid, but all seem to be related to a water source of the area. The place where you now cannot fly over, Minsk in Belarus. The old East Slavic name of the town was Mensk or Menisku, derived from a river named Men. The direct version of the name in Belarusian today is Miensk, which some Belarusian speakers continue to use as their preferred name for the city. When Belarus was under Polish rule, the names Minsk Litevski, meaning Minsk of Lithuania, and Minsk Białoruski, Minsk of Belarus, were used to differentiate between the two. The Principality of Minsk existed as early as the 11th century, so the name has been around for a while. Monaco is simply the name of the city-state. Back in the 6th century BC, the first inhabitants of Monaco referred to it as Monoikos. Monoikos is derived from a Greek word which combines the words monos, meaning alone, and oikos, which means house. What they meant by the term is uncertain. It perhaps refers to the legend of Hercules passing through the land and a single temple in his honor being built. All the way in Russia, the capital city is Moscow. The actual name of the city in Russian is Moskva. When the city was founded in 1147, it was called Moskov, being named after the Moskva River on which the city is situated. The most linguistically well-grounded theory is from the Proto-Balto-Slavic root muzg, meaning wet. So the name Moskva might signify a river at a wetland or marsh. Moving on to the Mediterranean, Cyprus's capital is Nicosia. The earliest mention of Nicosia is by Assyrian king Esar-Adon in 672 BC. This is a mention of the city-state of Ledra located on the site of Nicosia, but back then the city was named Lidir. This name, or Ledra, remained in use as late as 392 AD, but many variations were used. And early Christian sources of this period are the first to use similar variations of the name Lefkosia. The name is recorded in the majority of Byzantine sources as Leukosia and is accepted in literature that the name most probably derives from the Greek phrase Leuk Osia, meaning white estate. state. In Greek mythology, the figure of Lefkosias also exists, and the name translated to white state. Eventually, I guess it would have evolved from Leucosia to the similar Nicosia, I guess. Norway's capital is Oslo. The Norwegian city of Oslo was founded in the year 1040, back then under the name Anslo, after being destroyed by a fire in 1624 during the reign of King Christian IV. A new city was built close by and named Christiania in the king's honor. In 1925, the city, after incorporating the village, retaining its former name, was renamed Oslo. Modern linguists generally interpret the original Oslo as either meadow at the foot of a hill or meadow consecrated to the gods. Paris in France dates its name to a long time ago as well. Julius Caesar referred to the region as Lutetiam Parisiorum, Lutetia of the Parisi. The Parisi were a local tribe from the Iron Age. Lutetia is interpreted as either stemming from the Celtic root lukot, meaning mouse, or from lutu, meaning marsh or swamp. It's weird how many cities come from the way the locals called a swamp. The city is later called Parision in the 5th century and then Paris in 1265. Paris is often referred to as the City of Light, both because of its role during the Age of Enlightenment and also because Paris was one of the first cities in the world to use gas street lighting. To the southwest is Podgorica. It literally means area below Gorica, and Gorica means little hill, so literally a city next to a hill. Throughout the years, it had various names. The Romans called a nearby town Dioclea, Duclia in South Slavic. This city itself was called Birzinium at its foundation, then becoming Ribnica in the Middle Ages. The name Podgorica was used from 1326 onwards, but from 1946 to 1992, the city was named Titograd in honor of Josip Tito, the president of Yugoslavia at the time, then going back to Podgorica. All the way in Czechia, the capital is Prague. The Czech name Praha is derived from an old Slavic word, pra, which means ford or rapid, referring to the city's origin at a crossing point of the Vltava River. Prague is also called the City of 100 Spires because of its beautiful cathedrals and their pointy spires, which are now said to reach 500 or even 1,000. Way up to the northwest is Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland. It is said the first Viking settlers made their home in the region we now know as the city of Reykjavik. The name literally translated to Smoky Bay and is said to have been used since the moment it became settled, deriving its name from the hot springs that existed in the area at the time and the steam they generated. Moving to the Baltic, Riga is the capital of Estonia. The origin and meaning is uncertain and various theories exist. One is that it comes from the Livonian Ringa, meaning loop, referring to the ancient natural harbor formed by the Daugava River. It could be derived from Rieg, the German name for the river Ritzen, or from the Latin rigata, meaning irrigated, symbolizing an irrigation of dry pagan souls by Christianity according to a local bishop. However, the most reliably documented of possibilities is that Riga's name comes from its already established role in trade. Apparently, locals called the merchant buildings and granaries Rias, eventually evolving into Riga, while San Marino's name comes from a saint, Marinus, who was a stonemason from the island of Rab in today's Croatia. Marinus is said to be the founder of the state in 301 AD. Bosnia's capital is Sarajevo. The name derives from the Turkish saray, meaning palace. The addition of Evo may indicate a possessive noun, so making the name of Sarajevo City of the Palace. The official name during the 400 years of Ottoman rule was Saraybosna, meaning Palace of Bosnia, which remains the city's name in modern Turkish. As Sarajevo developed, numeral informal names started to be used from comparisons to other cities in the Islamic world, such as Damascus of the North or European Jerusalem. Skopje in North Macedonia is next. The name of the city comes from Skupi, which was the name of an early settlement located nearby. The meaning of that name is not known for sure, but there is a hypothesis that it derives from Greek meaning watcher or observer, referring to its position on a high place. After antiquity, Skupi was occupied by various peoples, and consequently its name was translated several times in several languages, and so it eventually evolved into Skopje. In 1392, it was conquered by the Ottoman Turks, who called it Uskup. When the area was annexed by the Kingdom of Serbia in 1912, the city officially became Skoplje, and this name was adopted by many languages. The local Albanians called the city Shkup or Shkupi, closer to the original name. In Bulgaria, the capital city is Sofia. The city initially had a Thracian name, Serdica, derived from the local tribe of the Serdi. After this, Roman Emperor Marcus Ulpius Traianus gave the city the name of Ulpia Serdica. Ulpia might come from the Latin word lupus, meaning wolves, or vulps, meaning fox. The name Sofia itself comes later on from the Saint Sophia Sophia Church. The origin is in the Greek word Sophia, meaning wisdom, and even the Ottomans came to favor the word Sofia. Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, was established as a town at least in 1000 AD through a Viking settlement. The earliest written mention of the name Stockholm dates from 1252. The first part of the name, stock, means log in Swedish, although it may also be connected to an old German word, also stock, but meaning fortification. The second part of the name, holm, means islet, and is thought to refer to the islet Helgeandsholmen in central Stockholm. Moving to Estonia, the capital city is Tallinn. In 1154, a town called Kolivan was put on the world map by the Arab cartographer Muhammad al-Idrisi. The Russians apparently also called it this, and it may be somehow connected to the Estonian mythical hero Kalev. Henry of Livonia in his chronicle called the town with the name Linda Nisa, referencing a local castle. The modern name Tallinn is Estonian, although usually thought to be derived from Tani Lin, meaning Danish town, after the Danes built a castle in the place of the Estonian stronghold at the location of Linda Nis. But it could also have come from Tallinna, meaning winter castle, or Tallinna, meaning house castle. All the way in Albania is Tirana, whose origin has various theories. The most likely seems to be from the Greek tiros, which means dairy. In the area of Tirana, dairy products made by shepherds from surrounding areas, so it could be that this was the origin. Other options included coming from Tirkan, the name of a fortress nearby. Vaduz is the capital of Liechtenstein. The name was first recorded as Die Vaduzes. It is apparently traced back to the old Gaeto-Roman language, to the word auduct, meaning aqueduct, which evolved from the Latin aqueductus, but Vaduz has apparently nothing to do with aqueduct, at least when you look at it, so how did it go from one to the other? Another theory, which doesn't have that issue, is that it came from the word Valduc, which in turn came from the Latin vallis, meaning valley. Back to the Mediterranean, we have Valletta, the capital of Malta. The city was named after Jean Parisot de Valette, who succeeded in defending the island from an Ottoman invasion during the Great Siege of 1565. He was the Grand Master of the Order of the Knights of St. John. The peninsula was previously called Shagret Mewiya during the Arab period, and this refers to the meaning of a sheltered place. Vatican City is named after Vatican Hill, the geographic location of the state, which itself comes from the name of an Etruscan settlement and also a native tribe, Vatica or Vaticum. In Austria, Vienna. The etymology of the city's name is still subject to dispute. Some claim the name comes from Vedunia, meaning forest, stream. Others believe the name comes from the Roman settlement named by the Celts as Vindobona, probably meaning fair village or white settlement, Vindo meaning bright or fair. The Celtic word Vindosh may reflect a widespread cult of Vindosh, which was apparently a Celtic deity. The name of the city in Hungarian, Bex, has a different, probably Slavonic origin and originally referred to an Avar fort in the area. Slovene speakers call the city Dunaj, which means the river Danube on which the city stands. Vilnius is Lithuania's capital, and its name seems pretty straightforward when it comes to its origin and meaning, originating from the Vilnia River, which in turn comes from the Lithuanian word for ripple. Thank you, Lithuania, for having a normal etymology for your capital city. Further south is Warsaw, the capital of Poland. The city is called Warszawa in Polish. The exact origin of the name is uncertain, but a few theories exist. Originally, it was the name of a small fishing settlement on the banks of the Vistula River. One theory states that it means belonging to Vars, with Vars being a shortened form of the masculine name Warcislau, which in fact is the name of the first ruler of Pomerania, whose domain reached into current Poland. Folk etymology attributes the name to a fisherman, Vars, and his wife Sawa. According to legend, Sawa was a mermaid with whom Vars fell in love. In actuality, Vars was a 12th-13th century nobleman who owned a village located in the region, and this seems a likely origin for the name. One of these, or none, might be the actual origin and meaning. Pristina is Kosovo's capital. This wasn't in the right alphabetical place because I only noticed in the end that the list I used didn't include it for some reason, and I wasn't going to redo the entire order, so I fit it in here. The name of the city could be derived from the Proto-Slavic word Pristina, which means spring of water. And finally, Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, whose etymology is also unclear. It was used for the city only from 1852 onwards, although the name of the precisely Zagreb diocese already included it since the 12th century. The older form of the name is Zagreb, which made it so that in folk etymology, the name of the city would come from the verb zagrab, meaning to scoop or to dig. But this is not confirmed or likely to be historically accurate. And so, those are the name origins and meanings of each European capital city, sometimes related to mythology, sometimes being more factual, and sometimes being a set of possibilities where we just aren't sure of which one, if any, is the correct origin and or meaning. A lot of them oddly coming from marshland or swamp, many coming from the name of a local river, the city's economic activity, a castle, or even after the name of one of their historical founders. Please let me know in the comments if I forgot any capital city. I don't think so. And also if you noticed any mistakes or have any additional information about the origin and meaning of Europe's capital city names. Thanks so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you want, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge.